Hi, good morning, everyone. I can see that the attendees are starting to come into the room. That's great to see you. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes until it looks as if everybody's joined us. It's lovely to see you on certainly what with me looks like a really wet and miserable morning. So hopefully we'll get a good attendance because maybe there's not so much to do out there. Okay, let's make a start then. And if anybody else joins us as we go along, that will be fine. Okay, I'm Tracy Francis and I work for ARC Scotland, which manages the Scottish Transitions Forum. And I'm responsible for the Parent and Carer Network, which involves families across the whole of Scotland at all stages of the transitions process, with young people from the age of about 14 up to the age of about 25. And this is the fourth in our webinar series, which was intended to actually give you as parents and carers essential information that you're going to need and things to be aware of when you're starting to prepare yourselves and your young people for moving from children's services into adult services. If you've missed any of the previous sessions, then you can listen to those, you can catch up with those through the Parent and Carer Network page on our website, which is scottishtransitions.org.uk, and we've got recordings there, and you'll also be able to get the downloads and the handouts from the previous sessions as well. So we've had a particularly high level of interest in this topic this morning, which is great, and I think if we were in a real room rather than a virtual room, we'd actually be quite crowded. So a big welcome to all of you. Thank you very much for coming along. Last week, we were looking at independent living skills and the tools and tips to try and get your young person prepared to live life the way that they want to. And a big part of that for a lot of people is being able to try new things. It's maybe making contact with new people, new networks. It's being able to develop new skills, for example, like traveling independently and travel training. And also it can be about developing new interests and new hobbies, trying out things that maybe people thought they hadn't had the opportunity to do. And very often, I think with transitions, it's easy to think about only the challenges. And we tend to lose sight a bit of the fact that growing up is meant to have some excitement about it. It's meant to be opening up new possibilities and new opportunities as well, to live life the way that your young person wants and to follow their interests, not just what school can provide, but actually what they want to do. So I'm really delighted today to welcome someone who's got, I think, probably one of the best jobs in Scotland, actually. That's about helping young people who need a little bit of extra support to push on some of those doors, try things that they maybe don't get a chance to try as often as they would like to, and provide the support for that in a different way. So Lee House works for the Independent Living Fund Scotland, and they manage the Transitions Fund, which is what he's going to be telling you about this morning. So Lee, would you mind just introducing yourself and say a bit about how you came to be doing this job?
Yeah, thanks Tracy for the introduction. I feel like I've got the best job in Scotland. It's brilliant to really get out and engage with young people, especially around this fund. So I've worked for ILF for 5 years. I actually came in as a caseworker, so I may have spoke to some of you before in that role where I would help with putting the funding together, and then we also helped towards starting the new transition fund, which opened in 2017. So I've been doing casework for 5 years, and just recently, at the start of this year, after I come back from my paternity, I moved into the engagement and events officer role. So my role is really to get out, speaking to all these different groups, although in lockdown that's totally changed. Now we're doing everything on Zoom and webinars. But in essence, I would be going out to loads of events. We'd be doing our own events as well, bringing people together and chatting about the transition fund and just giving it as much exposure as we can and getting as many young people applying to the fund, and that's what we wanted to do. And I also do a lot of work around our older fund, which I'll touch on at the start of the presentation, and also some work in Northern Ireland. So it kind of covers the whole of ILF, but one of my main focuses is the transition fund. And yeah, so since the start of this year, I've kind of been on that journey. But as Tracy was saying, we're kind of in a different world at the moment, but we're doing things like this, which is fantastic to gather so many people together, and we can tell you about all the ins and outs of the fund. And yeah, technology has saved us through lockdown, I think.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Lee. Just before I hand over to Lee to get started, a little bit about the housekeeping. If you want to ask questions, you can do that at any point during the session. Have a look on your screen, and you should have maybe a wee icon that might be a question mark, or it might be the word questions. And if you click on that, it should take you through to a box where you can type in your question. And I will actually look at those, and I'll pass those on to Lee as we go through the session. We'll try and answer as many questions as we can. Lee has also very generously said that if you want to, at any point, organise a one-to-one conversation with him after this session, then you can do that. He's willing to, sort of either by Zoom or phone or whatever it takes. If you want to talk to him about your individual situation and your individual family circumstances, he's happy to do that as well. So do let us know if that's something that you would like to do. The other thing on your screen, you should also have a button or a word that says handouts. And if you click on that, you'll be able to see the slides. You'll see the slides as we go through the presentation, but you'll be able to download the slides from today. And there's also the transition planning guide that the Scottish Transitions Forum's put together, again, specifically for parents and carers. And that's got lots of links to organisations that can give advice and information about the topics we've been talking about in these webinars. And then last but not least, just to remind you that we're recording this session, and we'll be sending the link out as soon as possible after the session's ended. So if you have any problems with sound or seeing anything, then don't worry too much about it. You'll get that link and you'll be able to revisit it later. So Lee, I'm going to hand over to you to tell us more about the Transitions Fund and how it all works. I am just going to pull up your presentation in a second, if you can give me a moment. Just bear with me. There we go. That's Fantastic. It. Right. Okay. Brilliant. Hopefully everybody can see that and that's sharing okay. So just tell me when you want me to move on to the next slide, and I'll hand over to you. And you go.
Let's just go to the first slide. Let's click on to that first one and have a chat through it. So it's just a bit about independent living, really. Before we kind of get into the crux of the transition fund. So you can see a quote here: everyone should have the same freedom, choice and dignity to live independent lives at home and work and in the community. Today we are safeguarding the right for the people of Scotland, and that was from the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon. So just to give you a bit of history, 2010 the ILF announced it was closing in England. The government decided to ring fence the money to local authorities, and nothing happened for 5 years. We were announced to be reopening or continuing work in 2015. So they kind of just maintained the fund for 5 years in England on a wind down sort of process. We took over in July 2015 and we decided to keep Northern Ireland and Scotland together. And there is a fund of around about 3,000 people at the moment. So we call it the 2015 fund because that's when we opened. And that gives people money to live independently in their own homes and have choice and control about bringing in additional care or getting out in the community. So that isn't open at the moment, and that's something we're looking to in the future. So that was the first thing that started in Scotland when we reopened as ILF. In December 2017, the ILF Scotland launched the Transition Fund for Young Disabled People. Now, we worked across Scotland, we're doing loads of different engagement, loads of different organisations, including ARC were involved. We want to speak to a lot of young people, and what would you want from a fund? So this was all presented back to our sponsor team and the board of directors, and we decided to go with the Transition Fund because we feel that we want to really make a big impact with young people's lives. So that's how it became. It started 2 days before Christmas. They wanted it open before the end of the year, so we're all packing up ready to finish for Christmas, and we got the news through that the fund was launching. So it was a very soft launch. And in the last couple of years, we've been able to get out and promote as much as we can. So, Tracy, if you want to click on, we'll go on to the next slide.
Oh, yeah, I will do. Give me a moment.
It's okay.
There we go.
Fantastic. So, what is the ILF Scotland Transition Fund? Well, the new ILF Scotland Transition Fund provides money up to a year to support young disabled people aged 16 to 25 who are at an important transitional stage in their lives. The purpose of the fund is to help young disabled people access opportunities that enable them to participate in their communities. Now, obviously, that has changed over the last 3 months, the landscape of that. but we are starting to come out into phase 3 and hopefully phase 4, which will allow some of these activities to kind of restart. But you can still have that opportunity being at home or out in a small area around, say in the phases that we've had 1 and 2. So we've had a change in sort of some of the applications. The other thing to note on the slide is that it's now 16 to 25. It originally started at 16 to 21, and this was announced in November by Jean Freeman, who came to our celebration event. We had lots of people who had applied for the fund there, celebrating that funding that they received and all their stories, and we had some people doing some live performances. It was fantastic, and Jean announced that because of the feedback we'd had, we'd want to go to 25, and there was money there to do that, which is fantastic, because we're finding that a lot of feedback was, I just missed out, or I'm going through transition into adulthood. Transitions, I think, can happen at any point in life, and I'd love to see the fund open up, to retirement age or full scale of life. But hopefully one day we'll get there. But 16 to 25 has enabled a lot more people to access the fund. So Tracy, let's keep going. So the key question, who can apply? So you can apply for the ILF Scotland Transition Fund if your age is between 15 and 25. So the idea is if you apply at 15, you wouldn't receive the money if you're 16. So the thinking around that is that if you are at school, we want to be a big part of that leaving school process. So now we know at the moment, this big period we've kind of ended in, my daughter's been affected too. It's they've got a school report and now they move on to primary 2, things like that. So a lot of families are probably in limbo going, they've maybe not had a transition plan. So this is why the transition fund, I think, is so important at the moment, that people get access to this. So we want to be part of that transition to the next stage, especially at leaving school. We want to be part of that plan. Now we know it's not always been happening, but we are working actively with the schools to try and encourage applications and be part of that process. So you can apply up to the age of 15 right up to 25. So the day before you become 25, you can still apply. So in essence, you can apply every year. That's another great thing they've added to this fund, is that you can apply every year. I'll go on a bit at the end about how that finishes up year on year, but you could have essentially 9 years of funding there, which is fantastic. You've lived in Scotland for the last 6 months, have an impairment or disability as defined in the Equality Act 2010, which really covers everything, and that's we want to be open to everyone, basically. So the last part we have here, I wouldn't worry about it too much. It says have less than 27,215 personal savings. This is just a policy they've carried over from our 2015 fund, and it's really just to say that if a young person had that sort of money in their account, it would afford them to have some opportunities. But I can let you know that we've not come across anyone with that. I mean, I think we'd all love to have £27,000 in our banks right now. It would maybe be a great help. So that's just something they've carried forward. But so Tracy, if you want to click on, we'll go through to the next slide. So with the fund, we ask for a proof of disability. It's quite scary for some people, phone up and ask, but we try to keep it really low key. We're not going to be digging around the backgrounds of young people or families to find out, confirm things. It's quite a light touch. So you need proof of disability for a disability payment. If you're receiving DLA or PIP, that can act as proof. Just a copy of the letter. You can send a photo in or attach it to your application. You do not need a definite diagnosis. We need to know how the disability or impairment affects you. So we've had a lot of people phone us and say, I've not been diagnosed. As long as you can display, or someone, which I'll touch on in a second, can display for you how that's affected your life, we will look at the application for you. To give you an idea, a lot of the applications that come in, sadly, you see a lot of mental health, anxiety, depression, bipolar 1 and 2, all sorts of different ranges of mental health things have been coming with the applications, and that's been the majority over, I would say, physical disability, which you would expect maybe more applications from, but it has been a good mix. And some of the stories that have come through, especially around suicide and attempted suicide, has been really quite scary to see. So we will look at everything, and don't feel like because you've not had your diagnosis through your doctor or you're on certain medication or counselling that you can't get access to the fund. If you can get a letter from someone you've been working with, a social worker, local area coordinator, a teacher, a careers advisor, a health worker, or a GP, or a registered charity, it must have a registered charity number also, on some headed paper just with the person's title, and it's just to really say that they've been working with you and this is what you've been going through. So with these options, if you don't have any of these options, then do give us a call and we can talk it through and try and support you the best way we can. But in the main, as the applications that I see coming through, everyone has been able to source one of these. And really what's encouraging is to see GPs. We've had a lot of letters from GPs now. I know in different areas you have to maybe pay for that. I know in Dundee you have to pay. In different areas it will be different rules, but it's really heartwarming to see GPs really getting them behind the transition fund and helping young people with their diagnosis and supporting mental health. So there is a big improvement there. So, but any other questions on that, you can get in touch with the team and they can kind of guide you. So the big question: what can money be used for? So really, this is I'll touch on. It's kind of changed over the last few months, but I'll go through some of the options and discuss it through with you. So money from the ILF Scotland can be used to help you participate in activities that you may not have been able to take part in before, help you become independent and spend time with other people. That is a key statement to remember when applying. So everything you're applying for, does it follow that statement? Is it encouraging spending time with other people? Is it taking part in the community? Is it being independent? Now, we know through lockdown that things have changed and we've been stuck at home quite a bit, and the application that we've had in, the type of application has changed a lot towards more technology and maybe a bike or things like that, where you could maybe get out and around your surrounding area. So if there is things that you want to apply for that are not available at the moment, in terms of maybe possible clubs, training, driving lessons, things like that, you can still apply for these at the moment. We would just put the money on hold and you could access that, hopefully, fingers crossed, when we start to get back to the normal, or the new normal as they're calling it. Hopefully that will all start to kick in maybe in the next 4 or 5 months once we hit phase 4. But again, it's really difficult because it's up in the air. But the good thing about the transition fund is that if that wasn't to happen, you could call us and we could rework your money into something more suitable. So it's a great lot of flexibility within the fund. If you're not enjoying something through the year, contact us and we can look at putting the money, as long as you tell us before, we can look at putting the money into another part that you're interested in. So these are just a snapshot of some of the things. On the next slide, I'll go into a bit more. But the main ones we get: art and music lessons, really, really popular. A lot of music stuff. I'm really into music, so seeing a lot of people asking for instruments and technology for studio work and things like that, fantastic. Device or technology been massive, so iPads. We have just to touch on just a little bit, but it is in the FAQs if you want to have a look on the website ilf.scot. We have different tiers of technology. We've learned kind of as we went along with this to look at, obviously this is funded by the Scottish Government and it's public money, so we need to be seen to use the money in the best possible way and be fair. So we looked at technology, sort of 3 tiers of technology, because a lot of people were applying for the highest grade of Apple Mac, £2,000, but their goal was just to check emails, look for jobs and keep in touch with family. So we didn't feel that was necessary. So we want to use the money in the best way, but we still offer a generous 3-tier sort of program with that. So to get a laptop for things like that, YouTube, jobs, connecting with people, still offer up to £600, which I think is pretty generous, because a laptop, you can get a really good one for £300. So we are looking at ways as we get used to applications coming in of how we manage it, the fund, and offer the best possible options. So technology has been a huge driver of applications, especially in lockdown. Travel training, so when you go back to college and things like that, getting to and from college, can we support you? We've had a lot of applications around taxi fares and things like that, something that we'll look at on a case by case, but it's really thinking again, what would the goal be by getting a taxi to college every day? What's the long-term goal? That's what you've got to keep in your mind of everything that you're applying for. What are you going to benefit from that? How's it developing you? Join class or club, been huge. We've had a lot of football coaching badges, SFA courses, ladies football, season tickets, badminton, all sorts of sports has been a huge driver. Really impressive to see some of the people challenging for the Disability Olympics and things like that and getting in the sports teams. We've really been supportive of that, and we've got some great stories that are available on our website. You can kind of see people's journeys. Driving lessons, massive. So to give you an idea of a typical application that comes in quite a lot before lockdown, and it could still be after or during, as I say, you can get access to that money. But we decided that because we were getting so many driving, we had to have something in place. So we're going to offer you 40 lessons. You get your provisional. You could, if you haven't had that paid for, we'll do that. Advanced driving, your practical and your theory. If you needed more, you can contact us. Maybe you've not reached your goal. we can then speak to you about maybe if you haven't used all your funding, adding a bit more into that to give you some more support if you hadn't reached that goal. But we will give you up to
Lee?
40 lessons. Sorry,
we lost your sound there for a moment or two.
Right, okay.
We missed that last kind of maybe 30 seconds or so.
Right.
Okay. So cool. I think we were just talking about driving lessons when we lost you.
Yeah, that's been a typical application. So we get driving and gym quite a lot. So to give you an idea of that typical application, we would pay for 40 lessons, your practical, your theory, advanced driving, provisional. So we put together a package. You don't need to kind of think about 60 lessons, 50, maybe I just need 15. We'll give you 40 no matter what. If you need more after that and you've got funding left, we can look at that for you. All you would need is a quote, which I'll go on to from your driving instructor. But that comes in with the gym, say, quite a lot of times. So the goals from that, to give you an idea, would be driving would be to look at some job opportunities if you pass your test. We had one guy that just wanted to pick his mum up from work to spend more time with her. I mean, that was a small goal, but fantastic. The gym would be routine, eating well, physical fitness, spending time with other people, maybe a one-to-one course. So the benefits from that, that's linking into your application. So that's a real typical application. Tracy, if you click on, we will touch on some of the other different things that we've had in. So as I said, laptops, desktops, all these sorts of things really popular. Cameras, I've loved seeing the photography coming in from young people. Fantastic skills and ability. Some of the pictures we've had have been phenomenal. We've had guys out doing DJing and things like that, which I've really loved. Gym membership, as I said, really, really impressive to see the amount of people wanting to do things like that. Sports equipment, sports coaching, as I say, football season tickets and having a PA maybe coming along with you have been really impressive. We've done Rangers, Celtic, Dun United, Alloa, Partick, you name it, all the teams been involved. Music lessons, yeah, really, really popular. Recording equipment as well, so if you want to get into like recording your own songs, employability training courses. Some of the left field sort of things we've had therapy dogs, where the dog would be trained up to suit the young person's needs. And we've had all sorts of amazing stories about people having therapy dogs. I think we've had 2 or 3 now that have come back saying it's really changed their life. They've been able to go further. I think one person really suffered from isolation and anxiety and couldn't leave the house, and now she's been able to go the furthest she's ever went with her therapy dog. It's changed her life. She's joined a dog walking group. So, you know, it's all about what the young person wants to do, what their interests are, and that's really important part of the application. So if you click on, Tracy, we'll go on to the next section.
So we're going to have a
video here.
Yeah. Okay. Let's give it a go.
I applied for the Independent Living Fund Scotland Transition Fund. Before I got the money for the Transition Fund, my mum had to take me to all my tournaments and training. The fund helped me to employ a PA to take me to these tournaments, which will help me travelling and attending these sessions independently on my own.
My name's Kate, and I love to bake. I use the fund to buy baking equipment and everything I need to be a baker.
I received funding from the ILF Scotland Transition Fund for new piano and music lessons. When I'm playing the piano, I'm able to relax a lot more and means to express emotions I'm feeling.
Thanks to ILF's Transition Fund, I've been able to push myself out of comfort zones I'm normally used to and develop myself as a citizen. It's worked wonders for me.
I would like to thank the ILF Transition Fund for giving Katie the opportunity to try something new.
Basket that's fine. It's brushing a horse, working out, and working a horse.
At Cuba, me as a teacher, I want to go to different people. That is teaching people, for volunteer and for the business too.
My favourite thing of coaching is seeing them all happy and enjoying themselves. I think the fund is a great idea. It helps you get into work and gets you started. It's definitely helped you get more independent.
Receiving the funds meant an opportunity for learning. it also meant an opportunity for a new way to enjoy myself.
And we didn't think it was possible that there was a place out there that could give us such financial help. So we can only say a big thank you to everybody at the ILF, because they've been really, really helpful. The ILF funding is great because it gives people the same opportunities, people who don't have disabilities.
This is the best opportunity you're going to get to make your dreams come true.
Anything that helps young disabled people to reach their full potential and to be more independent is really positive, and it enables people to, you know, try something new and give something a go that they might not have done before.
I think people should apply for the fund. It can really change their life.
Fantastic. Well, that was just an idea to give you an idea of some of the people that have applied, and some of these people have actually ended up being our young ambassadors who have helped to promote the fund. And it's Gemma especially has done a lot of work, and Ryan kind of pushing the fund and telling people, you know, push for the stars when you're applying, because you can end up with some great opportunities as well. So Gemma's going towards some of the Scottish basketball disability team, and she's doing some coaching as well. So it's fantastic to see. So we'll move on. There is some limits on the money. So money from the ILF Transition Fund cannot be used for things that another organisation would give you money for. So we're really just saying here that make sure that there isn't another body or organisation that should be funding something that you're going for. So we've had a lot of people that have come to us that are starting college and didn't realise they could get a needs assessment at college. Now, we would ask that you do that first, because there might be some opportunities they can help you with some technology or some travel training, especially as well at HNC level for universities. You should speak to SAS as well, because there could be some support there. So we're trying as much as we can, as we've learned along the way, to signpost as much as we can. We had a young lad that had applied to get help with his rent. He was 6 months behind. It's not something the fund could support, but we didn't want to just push him away, so we managed to get him the details in an interview set up with Money Matters in Glasgow. So we are really keen not just to say no, we want to try and help if we can fund the items that are requested. So the list at the bottom, really: personal care, medical care, cleaning, supervision, safeguarding, adult support and protection, really stuff that I would say local authority would cover. So you would speak to your social worker first regarding any of these sort of items. If any of these you spoke to and they come back and say, look, we can't support you, you don't fit the criteria, etc., then by all means let us know about that in your application, and then we can look at it on a case by case. And the big question is answered at the bottom there. You can apply up to £7,500 for the year. So it is a really high amount of money for a year, a really exciting amount as well. And we had applications over that. So if it is an exceptional application, we will consider over that amount as well, which is really great. So click on, Tracy, we'll move on to the next slide. So this part has been really exciting, especially through lockdown. We've seen a lot of applications come in now. So basically, I'll give you a little quick story of why it came about. We found a lot of applications came in that maybe were short of detail, or the young person just really didn't know what they wanted to do, or they maybe couldn't display how they wanted to move forward in their life. So we had an assessor visit to. We have a group of assessors, around 30 to 35 assessors around Scotland, that can be sent out to offer some further help, or maybe find out a bit more. The application's maybe not giving us the full sort of plan around use of funds. So we maybe send an assessor out to do a visit. So one of them came back, and it was the guy's goal was to appear on Britain's Got Talent, which was a fantastic goal. But we found that by speaking to him and his family, he was actually, there was a lot more we could have done with him right now, and that was his longer term goal. So we found out that he loved writing music, and he wanted to help people with autism how to write songs and record them. So we ended up getting him a studio and guitars and a setup, Apple Mac setup with recording studio, home recording studio, which was brilliant. But it led us to this idea of maybe that young people could do with some more support at that early stage, because we know that not every young person can display an application. These type of things can really be off-putting, filling out forms and things. So, which is a key point of the application, which I'll come on to at the end, about who can apply on behalf of a young person. So we came with this idea of a young person's planning grant. So the idea is that the young person and the family can identify someone in your local area. We don't want to kind of guide you to say you must use this company. It's all about choice and control. You pick who you'd like to use. We can try and guide you to say who is available in your area. And you pick someone to come out and work with you and develop a person-centred plan. We found that that's really helped in supporting applications because they find out a bit more about what they want to do, and you also walk away with a nice plan. It could be 6 weeks, could be 6 months, could be a year. You can apply for that before you apply for the actual fund. The total amount would then come off the total of £7,500. I'm seeing the typical sort of price of that between £500 to £800, the ones that have came in, depending on how far you want to take it. But what has been great is it's acting towards that goal, big goal at the end, and then it strips it down and works its way back. That's the way we were trained on it. And you have your people that are going to be in your circle of trust, who's going to support you, and then all the little things around your big goal that you like doing as well. And it kind of builds a picture about what you need to get there and the things, that type of items that you would need if you were applying for the fund. And but it also gives you that plan to work away out with the transition fund, that you've got that there is for your future as well. So I think it's a really good start if you weren't sure about what you wanted to do. So you can contact the guys in the office. They can go through a bit more detail on how that works, or through myself. But yeah, that's been really popular through lockdown, because I think a lot of people are kind of worried about where do they go now and what do they apply for and how they can get access to it. So Tracy, if you click on, we'll carry forward to the next. So the key questions obviously around about how I can apply. So online, we have all sorts of application tools now, because we have to, as a ILF Scotland, offer that. We offer BSL, you know, video packages, DVDs, anything you want to see the application process, we can offer to you. The most popular one at the moment is online, which the link is there, and we'll get this out to you. It's actually on ilf.scots website as well, and it takes you through a portal where you can sign up, you can track your progress, and you can save your progress as well. You don't need to do it all at once, which is really handy if you're kind of just wanting to do a bit by bit. That's great, because when you submit your online application, it talks to our system and our guys in the office, and it jumps straight on, and they can work on it straight away, which is fantastic. We do still get a lot of paper copies. You can do that as well. It takes a bit longer because we have to physically then type it all into the system. It takes a little bit longer, but so I'm always encouraging, if you can use online, do it. But yeah, contact us if you need any other methods of application. We can support you. And if there's one there that we don't offer, then we will get it for you, no problem at all. So you can post in. It's a 12-week turnaround, but we're doing things a lot quicker now because we've got a handle on some of the similar types of applications that are coming through. But yeah, we can do things a hell of a lot quicker, but we need to give ourselves that time, because we might need to come back and forth for a little bit. So if you click on Tracy. So here's I want to take you through some hints and tips now, really, about the application and the key elements to it that you need to think about with your young person, or if the young person is applying themselves. So these are the things that are regularly missed out of the application form. So your national insurance number, really important that we have that. Your local authority area. So it just gives us an idea of where the applications are coming in, really. Your disability DLA or PIP letter, if that's going to be your proof of disability, or a support letter with a name, job title, contact details of someone who can confirm your disability. That's quite key to remember. Also, in terms of the application, these are probably the 4 biggest things that I need people to think about when they're applying as well. So what is your goal? What is it you're aiming towards? What is it you want to achieve in that year grant that you've got? How will your goal benefit you? So what are you going to get out of these items that you're going to buy or going to purchase? What do you need to buy to reach your goal? One of the key questions. And who will support you to reach your goal? So who's going to be there to help you? Is it the charity? Is it your mum, dad? Is it your friends? Is it the club that you're going to? So the key thing about all of it as well is that when you're applying for your items, you can have as many items as you want. You can apply for multiple items up to £7,500. But what we're asking is it all leads towards something. So we had a lot of applications at the start that were just kind of like a wish list. But it wasn't anyone's fault. It was just that we probably didn't do enough talk around what we're expecting. And just to put in, it'll raise my confidence. We need a bit more detail on that. So if it is driving lessons, give us a few things about how that's going to affect your life. How's that going to impact you? How's that going to bring you forward? You know, if it is the gym, if it is music, you know, whatever it is you're going for, just link it all into what is it going to do for you in the long term or in that year grant. And one of the key questions, actually, I think as well, is after the year runs out, how are you going to keep working towards your goal? I think that is the biggest question, actually, because we want to drive change in young people in that they push towards and don't just settle for having the money and off you go. And we just say, goodbye, have a great year, we'll catch you later. We want to come back in at the end and go, well, how did you get on? Do you need more support? Are you going to reapply in year 2? Is there anything else we can offer you? So, as I said at the start, you can apply year on year. We do ask that you apply for something different each year, but if there is an opportunity to continue or maybe take your goal in the first year to a new level, our guys in the team will look at that on a case-by-case basis. You have to display what the benefits would that look like, and really give us a bit of detail on that. But yeah, I think that's a key question. You tell us how you going to keep working. We want to keep you pushing forward and get yourself opportunities by working hard and developing your skills. And as you've seen in the video, there are some great stories already about young people taking it to the next level. So that's what we really want to do. We want to drive change. So Tracy, if you click on, we'll come to the next slide. So here's some other little bits we've maybe touched on, but I just want to reiterate them. So tell us about your disability impairment. What effect does it have on your life to live your life? I really love that, and the stories that we present to our team. I'll tell you a bit about the application process at the end, but it's really great to see a bit about the person, because it builds a picture when the casework team are presenting their funding to the management in the meeting that they do every week. So it's really important to see that. This is a key one that really restricts a lot of applications in terms of delays. So please supply a quote for each item you request, either on headed paper or via internet link, so we can fully assess your application. We've had a lot that just come in that don't have it or are just maybe part there. So what we're saying is everything you go for. So if it is, an example, sports equipment, and you're on JD Sports website, every individual link and every individual item we would require, because as I said at the start, this is public money, we're audited, so we need to make sure that when the auditors come in, they can see that we are doing our job in terms of getting the right quotes in. Now, we know that things might change in price, things go on sale. We're fine with that as long as we have the initial quote. If it does go on sale and there's money to come back, that can be returned as unspent monies. But at the end of the process, so about a month before the end of the year's grant's finished, we'll send you a letter or an email saying, how have you got on, and can you start sending in your receipts? To be fair, a lot of people are sending in straight away as soon as they've purchased it. So that's part of the auditing process, that you tell us, show us proof of you purchased the items. And then what we can do after that is close it down and say, well done, fantastic, and would you like to apply year 2? Or let them know about the details of that. And then we'd sign that year off, and then that allows you to apply in year 2 if you're still fit the criteria. So remember, the focus of the application should be on community inclusion, reducing isolation as much as possible, even though we're still possibly, some people are still shielding or in lockdown. Think about ways. So somebody asked me the other day about an iPad, and he wants to speak to his friends that were in his club but have now moved back to Canada. So they didn't have the technology, so they've ended up applying for an iPad. I said, well, don't just settle for an iPad. Is there an app that goes with the iPad that he could make? Because he was really into drawing as well. He could share his pictures with his friends. So they ended up getting an Adobe workshop package as well. So I'm always keen to say that don't just settle for the one thing. Look around it, especially with technology. There's so many different apps and things that you can add in as part of your package. To give you an idea, our average application is around about £3,500. I think people should be shooting for the stars with it. 7.5. Go for the full amount. Work it into your application. Really think about it. Take your time and build it and build a good application. So yeah, the application should be for something new and not something that is already paid for. So we did have a few that came in that they'd already done the driving lessons and they wanted the money back. We wouldn't be able to pay for that, so it's something new, starting from scratch really. If you receive the enhanced rate of PIP, are a member of a Motability scheme, ask them about providing driving lessons before applying for driving lessons to the fund, because they can provide these in some circumstances. So we did have a lot of that, and we try to do signposting around that. So it's key that if you do get enhanced rate, to check that out. And if your application is successful, please ensure you return your agreement form with photo ID and something confirming your address, official letter, bank statement. So I'll touch on that a little bit now. The application comes in, it then goes to our casework team. They then process everything. They might need to come back and forth if there's further details. It then goes to a weekly meeting, or now that we're at this point, we've got an ILF Transition Fund manager, Anne Young, who's got a little team that kind of work on these now. We don't always have to have a big meeting, but if there is some that are maybe a bit more detailed, then Ian Wilson, who's the lead transition fund manager, can come in with his team and look at it. So got a great network of support and experience there. It then gets, if it's successful, we'll give you the full amount for everything, or some of it, or maybe none. But we'll always tell you the reasons why and where you could get further support. And an agreement form would then come out. If it's email, online, you get by email. And we're asking for your bank details. So where's the money going to go? We need it to go somewhere, obviously. And who's going to be responsible for that? So that's what I talked about earlier, being an award manager. So we'd a lot of young people will do it, and it's great to see. But usually we'll see mum or dad or a family member. But if you can't, or you don't have any of these, you can ask for payroll. We could look at somebody in your area. So for instance, Glasgow, I think there's 3 or 4 GCVS, something like that, that could come in and do your payroll for you and control all the money and pay the bills and keep the receipts. So we can offer that as well as part of your funding. And then that comes back, we then process it. So for instance, today, if Tracy had sent me back her application and it came in this morning, I would process it this morning. Our pay runs every Wednesday. Tracy would have the money on Monday. That's how impressive our system is. We've made, I think it's around 57 million payments since ILF started, or something like that. 57 million in pounds, maybe. I might get that wrong, but we've not missed one payment. That's the key aspect of the system. We've never missed a payment. We've never been late. Our system is really impressive, and actually Scottish Government are looking at it for the changes that are coming with obviously universal credit and all these sort of things and how they make payments. So it's really great. We always want to get the money there as quick as we can. So allow you to go and buy your items and get on with your journey. So if you click on, Tracy, I think we have a couple more. I think we might be nearly at the end. So yeah, we have question and answers. So if there's any questions along the way, I can touch on these now at the end. Just to let you know, we have Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. The guys will always make me mention those. We've got some great stuff. Alana, our comms, one of our comms team, puts out some phenomenal stuff with stories. We're actually working on a nice project now with some new applicants, and we're going to be sharing them very soon, some video work about their journey, and it really gives you some inspiration about what sort of things you can apply for, or just to inspire you to apply as well. And we're doing lots of great stuff, hopefully in the second part of the year as well. So you can find us all across the social media channels and get in touch. The guys are in the office to let you know Monday, Tuesday and Thursday at the moment, due to the restrictions with the COVID-19. But we are hoping within the next 6 months we can have a bigger capacity and back to maybe Monday to Friday again. But the details are on the presentation, or we can forward that out about the contact numbers and emails. But anything through Tracy to myself as well, I can help you with. So that is the application process and transition fund, as much as detail as I think we've done before. So it's really good to go through it again. If there's any questions, I'm happy to be here to answer.
Right, just a second. We've had some questions coming in, and some of the questions I know that you've answered as we've gone through. So how long it takes to process an application? Currently, you said it's around about 12 weeks. But yeah, and one of the things that Kirsty has asked is, how about people who are already getting some form of social support? Can they still apply to the fund for something specific that isn't covered by the certificate at the moment?
Yeah, we've taken that little part out of the presentation because it was causing a lot of confusions, but there is still a little bit to go over really, but we kind of didn't want to sway people from not applying. So yeah, we do get a lot of people applying that have maybe 20, 30, 40 hours support from social work each week, and that's not, we want to target people in the less affluent areas where and we have started to do a lot of work around that, but it doesn't say that you can't apply. We're not oversubscribed at the moment. When we do get to that point, then it would move into sort of a sort of league table. So the people with maybe 40 hours support would be on a holding pen, but the people with no support would be the priority. So that we had that in our criteria at the start, and it caused a lot of confusion because what is little or no support for each disability out there? Everyone has different levels. So somebody with mental health issues compared to someone with a physical disability. So yeah, that kind of caused a lot of confusion. But yeah, it's case by case. If you have 20, 35 hours, 2 hours, you can apply for the fund. We will look at everything on case by case. Peter Scott, our chief exec, is key on how we can impact a young person right now and how we can change their life. And if it is an exceptional application, we will still consider that. But there is a part of the application where you would disclose what social work support. One of the questions is, do you have any social work support? And we're not going to be battering down the doors at social work saying, oh, well, we just want to get a gauge of what's going on in your life. And the guys will look at it on a case by case. But yeah, you can still apply and we will look at that for you.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Lee. Jane has asked, well, first of all, there were two questions. First of all, can you apply for funding for equipment, for example, a specialist wheelchair to enable her daughter to go off-road? So it's, okay. I guess that's equipment that's over and above what would normally be provided. And then where there are complex learning difficulties that might take more than a year for somebody to achieve their goals, is it possible to apply for funding for the same thing in the second year as you applied for in the first year, where there are circumstances that mean that that's actually going to be appropriate for that young person? Is that possible?
Yeah, I'll answer the first one around the wheelchairs. So we've had a lot, as you've seen in the video, Gemma applied, well, I shouldn't actually say in the video, but she did apply for a lightweight wheelchair to go to sports events because the one she had just wasn't suitable. As long as you're telling us where you've been before and have you tried other places, have you spoke to local authority, just tell us all that in the application. It's not going to discount it. We just want to know about what you've had to face to try and get one of these. We asked with wheelchairs, which you can find on ilf.scot transition fund section with the FAQs, that we'd ask that you, if you are applying for a wheelchair, that you look at 3 different quotes. So it just gives that fairer picture to use of the funds as well. But yeah, we will look at that. If it is 10 grand, 11 grand, go for it. We can look at it case by case. We might not be able to fund it all. In some circumstances we have been, but we could maybe part fund. You don't know until it's hard for me to say you would definitely get it, but it is something that we look at a bit. You just need to let us know. One of the first questions in case what team would go is, where have you been to? Have you spoke to local authority, or have you spoke to anyone else? Have you done this or that? As in, we just want to cover all the bases. And if nobody else can be able to help, then, as I say, in Gemma's case, she got a lightweight wheelchair. I think it was around about £7,000 or £8,000, and it's really changed the way she operates now. And she can pack it up herself and get it in the car, and she can travel. She's now past her driving, so she can drive herself, and it's changed her life. So yeah, that's something that we can look at. Second question. So I touched on it a little bit. So yeah, it'll be on a case by case, really. So we know that you'll go through that year, and maybe just, even if you didn't have complex needs, just people in general, I know that I've had to go through a year and I've not hit it. I want to carry it on and try and get on it, or maybe I want to change it. We've just asked that you contact us, so let us know. If you are applying, you get first year signed off, just speak to us before you put your second application, and the guys in the team will give you a steer. One thing with transition fund, it changes from time to time in terms of how they want to position it. But I would just speak to the team after your first year signed off, with your receipts have come in, and just say, look, I've not met the goal. And you'd probably even put that in your report when you send in your receipts. I've not maybe met my goal. I need a bit more help, or I need more support. You might want to take it to another level. It'll be done on a case by case, and they'll definitely look at it for you. Again, it's hard for me to say that they would say yes or no, but they won't discount it. They will try their best to support you if you can display it in the application. That's the best way of putting it, really.
Okay, we've got a question from Helen, who said, for young people with a degenerative condition, is it okay to apply for things that can keep them mobile for longer, or allow them to go out with a family member? And the examples she's given are, maybe gym, one-to-one support at the gym to keep muscle strength going, or maybe an e-bike where they can't manage a normal bike.
Yeah, so really, Tracy, the same applies for Helen. We just making sure that they've covered all the bases. Any statutory organisations that should be funding things like that, have they been to them and have they been turned down, or there just isn't any, scope for it? Then yes, certainly we would look at that. That's fantastic to get something like that coming through, that they want to go to the gym and keep working, even though they might have this thing that's kind of slowing everything down. That's the sort of thing that we want. We want to get people out in the community and spend time with other people. We're not. That's great about ILF and especially at ARC and all these organisations. It's not about the disability. We want the person to just change their life and things like that. So yeah, that would be certainly something that we could look at. But again, it's just making that point that they check that that not another body could maybe fund that for them. But yeah, we've had a few bikes and electric bike things and all these sort of things coming through. Really, kids love these things these days. I would probably fall off them. They're too dangerous for me, but there's a lot of things that they can look at, and loads of new ideas coming through. That's what I'm saying. The transition fund changes a lot because we get an application in and we're like, oh, we've never had that before. So they have to go away and do a bit of work with the management team and things like that. But yeah, a lot of people have asked previously, can I do my lessons and can you buy a car? So that's one thing that they had to pull away from, because it's who do you buy it from and being safe and things like that. So we will go away and look into it if we don't have the answer, and we'll come back to you. But that would be something that we could look at, definitely.
That's great, thank you. There's another one that's come in from Karen. Can you hear me? Yeah. And that she says, we want to apply for a cabin to go into the garden where my son can meet people and do activities with his PA, as he doesn't have anywhere in the house to do this. Is this something that we can apply for?
So this has come up quite a lot, and I won't go into the detail of how it's come up, and probably it might be different for Karen's circumstances, but yeah, this would be something that'd be hard for me to say. So basically the application that comes in for that sort of thing, you need to tell us the benefits. So remember what I said about area, spending time with other people, reducing isolation, getting out in the community. So that, obviously things are different in the moment within lockdown, so it's a hard one for me to answer. But I would suggest that they put the application in and we will look at it on, as I said before, a case by case. It's really displaying in that application the benefits for the young person for having a cabin at the bottom of the garden or in the garden. So it's it's come up a lot because of something that went out, which I say I won't go into at this point, but it caused a lot of applications to be put forward for that sort of thing. But as I said, you really need to display how is that going to help the young person in the terms of their goals and things like that. But yeah, we could look at it, but it's a hard one to kind of gauge because of the things that have come across with these cabins and things. So, you know, it wouldn't just be spending time with other people, your friends and family. You know, it's got to be a bit more in that. So I would say put as much detail into that one as you can if you're looking to apply for that. Cost it as well. Make sure it's costed, because they are quite expensive things to implement. It's not just the cabin. We found there's other things that you'll need for that. You know, is it going to have electric? Is it going to be insulated? Is this, you know, there's a lot of expense on top. So make sure that you would look at the whole thing. But yeah, if you have any queries about that, I would ask to speak to Anne or Ian in our transition fund team, just to get a steer on the idea of what you're thinking for your son or daughter, or what they're thinking. Really, it should be led by them. So what they want to do with that. I would maybe contact the team before you apply, just to get a steer of where they are with these ones at the moment, because it's quite it's quite a technical one, that one. Hope that helps slightly.
Okay, there's another one coming about eligibility. It's somebody whose children are fostered and with them permanently, but are they still eligible to apply given that the children are in the care system? Should that make a difference in application?
It doesn't make any difference. So the criteria is the criteria, really. It doesn't mention anything like that. We often get asked as well, you know, I'm working full time, can I apply? Yeah, you can apply, as long as you fit the criteria of lived in Scotland the last 6 months, don't have savings under over 27,250, and you have an impairment or disability as defined in the Equality Act 2010, and you're in between the age group. That's the criteria. So it doesn't matter if you're in care system or fostered or working full time or anything like that. So that's what's great about it. I think it's really open to all.
That's great, thank you. There's a couple of questions that are related. One is has come in from Sally, and it says, if we apply and we're turned down, can we appeal that, or what happens if an application is refused? And then Joe has asked, if the application's turned down, can we apply again if you review it a little bit, or a little bit like you're talking with the cabin, if you've got, you know, if you want to kind of go back and reapply and add a little bit more detail, or maybe think something through a little bit further, is that possible?
Yeah, so the guys, which is again great about the team that we've got, and I've been part of that team, so I put some of these applications through and things. We'll work with you as best as we can. If we see something straight away that we're like, we can't fund that, we'll come back to you. There might be, excuse me, a possibility that we can maybe alter the application. Again, that has to come from the person applying. Or we could then reject the application, which would then allow you to apply. So if we say, Tracy, you applied, and we said, look, we can't give you that, we'll just send you the letter or the email, and then that just allows you to go and reapply again, where there's no restriction, unless there was a clear attempt at fraud or something like that. Then we would maybe look at that differently. But as I say, that would be down to the team, the casework team. The other point around, what was the other one again? Sorry, Tracy. You said at the start.
If the application's turned down, can we apply again? Can we review it, add in some more detail, maybe explore it a little bit further, and put in essentially the same application, but just with a little bit more supporting information, perhaps?
Yeah, they say they can look at that. We are quite open to kind of work with people and try and adjust if we needed. But I'm out of that team a little bit now, so I know the processes that might have been changed a little bit. Again, any comments or any issues before, I would speak to the team before applying and get a steer on, is this something I could get money for, rather than going to all that trouble. So just phone and speak to the team. The other point as well, if you want to appeal, if you got turned down, there is a process. You've got 28 days to appeal. Just put it in writing via email or a letter, and it would then go to our management team, and then they would look at that in terms of can we look at that again or turn it down again, or go from there. But yeah, there is an appeals process all throughout the transition fund system that we have.
Okay. Sheila has asked if the young person is studying out with Scotland, but they're resident in Scotland, so they meet the eligibility criteria, can they still apply if they're studying actually out with Scotland?
That's a great question. I think the answer is yes, because the residence is still Scotland, but I would need to probably double check that one, because I don't know if I've come across anyone that has that. But I have lived in Scotland for 6 months, so I don't know if that means currently or previously. But I know what you're saying about the registered address is the Scottish address. Let me find out about that one, and I can get back to you, Tracy, and you can maybe forward that on to the person that asked. I will double check that, but that's a good question.
Okay,
there's always
lovely.
one that catches me out.
It's always nice to get one that you've never heard before, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I've not heard that one before, actually, so I'll find that out for you.
I know you said we are coming up to the hour, so I would encourage you, if you've got any questions that you want to send through, do pass them on. If we don't have time to tackle them all today, then Lee will certainly sort of answer them, and I can either get the information back to you, or I can put you in touch with him, and you'll be able to resolve those questions directly yourselves. There is one, Lee, that I know you were talking about using a component of the money for transition planning, and for actually to help people explore what their goals and what their life plan might be. And I think that's going to be relevant to a lot of people at the moment who maybe in school have not had the opportunity for transition planning that they might have normally expected to get at the moment because of the disruption in schooling. So that's really good to know. I was going to ask if you can apply for financial help with planning more than once. For example, if you get it at about, say, age 16, so you get the next kind of 2 or 3 years mapped out, but then you go into your early 20s, things have changed, and maybe you need a new plan, or you need to update the plan that you had before. Can you get that money twice to do planning?
Yeah. So yeah, you're at a different stage of your life. It's a different transition. It's a different phase. So yeah, it's just worth remembering that any money that you apply for the planning grant comes off your total amount. So if you're taking a £500, that would jump you down to £7,000. So, but yeah, you could. It's a different stage, isn't it? So like we said at the start, transitions can happen at any point in your life. So yeah, we'd be open to look at that. Yeah, definitely, because they may need a whole different set of rules or support at that time. So yeah, no, that'd be fine.
Okay, that's great. And there's one here that's come in, I think it's from Elsie, and it says, for applicants with learning difficulties, can their application be discussed with parents on their behalf?
Yeah, that's a great point. I actually forgot to mention that about that process. So who can apply? So yeah, anyone can apply for the fund on the young person's behalf. So if it's maybe you've been working with Tracy could do it, or a family member, because we know that a lot of young people might not be able, due to the disability, to be able to display how they feel about what they want to do. So yeah, that can happen. You can apply on behalf of a young person, anyone that's working with them, or family or friends. So that's a good option. We get a lot of that.
Okay, that's great. I don't know, like I said, we're coming up to the hour. Oh, wait a minute, I can see a couple more coming in here, saying, when does each funding year start and end? So when's the last date for this year's applications to be received?
That's the great thing about the transition fund. We're never closed. Even through Christmas, the guys will be in, certain days at Christmas. So your application, your funding year starts the day you get funded. So if Tracy applied through today and she had an agreement form sent back, the day that you get your money, that's your year from there, really. So if we did it today, Tracy would get her money on Monday, and there's a year starting from there. So it's not at the start when you apply, it's when you get your money, and that's your year running from there. And a month before the end of the year, we'll contact you to get your receipts and things like that. But yeah, we're open all year round, no close. I know some funds close at different points, but no, we're open all year round.
Okay, and Mandy has asked for her daughter who has cerebral palsy, it's about a companion bike. Would that be a good thing to be able to put an application in? So the idea of a companion bike is so that she can make new friends in a new setting next year. She's leaving and moving on to something else. Would that be a good subject for an application?
Yeah, as I say, yeah. Say a lot of questions we get when we do events and things like that are around that. Things like could I apply for this? Could I apply for that? It's really, you can apply for anything, but it's how you display in the application what the change or what the benefit is going to be for the young person. What is it going to do for their life? So nothing really is off the table. Yes, there is a list of stuff which you can find on the FAQs on the website that we kind of can't look at. Household bills, broadband, things like that. A fridge, moving into a new place. There's different funds for that, but in the majority, we'll look at everything on a case by case. So that would be something definitely that we could look at. But again, it's all about the application and telling us what would that do for her daughter.
Okay, that's good. And then Claire has asked, does receiving funding affect any other benefits for the child, for example, universal credit or anything like that?
Nothing at all. It doesn't affect anything. We're not part of that at all. So ILF is funded by the government, but it's additionality. So we always see ILF as additionality. Even with the older fund that we have, should always be additional. So no, it wouldn't affect any of your benefits. You wouldn't stop or lose any of your money. This is extra funding. So that's cool.
Okay.
That's good news.
Yeah, it's very good news. So, I mean, personally, I think the Transitions Fund's one of those, it's a rare thing that's a genuinely good opportunity. There are so few strings attached. There's so few barriers to being, sort of putting in an application and being part of that. So it's a real chance for somebody to try out things that they haven't had an opportunity to do before. And also, I think the other thing that I would want to say is that it's absolutely a godsend at the moment for young people who are leaving school and maybe aren't ready to go on to college, or can't get a work placement or something in place around the COVID situation. Because if it gives you a chance to try something new, you can keep that momentum going, you can keep that learning going. And it also structures their time. It gives them something that they can actually focus on, and funding to help with that. So, it's a huge, it can be a game changer, I think, just in giving people that little bit of time to develop, to learn the new skills, to build their confidence, and to make some more connections. So I know that we are going to have to draw that to a close. I can see a lot of comments saying, how many of you have found this really helpful. So Lee, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. You've really answered people's questions. I know we've also had in the chat, we've had Ryan Cousin, who is one of the young people who featured in the, there's the thumbs up for you, Ryan, who featured in the video. And I would have, if we'd had a little bit more time, I would have liked to bring Ryan in and talk about his experience of the fund. But what I will say is that we're starting to plan the next series of parent and carer seminars, probably into the autumn or into the winter. And what I would really like to do is get people like Ryan and one or two of the other young people that we work with to come along and actually be part of a webinar of this kind, to let you hear directly from them about what their experiences of transitions are, what's helped them, and what advice they would pass on to your young people, because I think that's something that's so important, to be able to get role models and people who are actually living through that experience to be able to share as well. So thanks a million. Thank you, Mandy. That's good. That's really nice to hear. So there you are, Lee. I'll just pass that on.
Fantastic.
As we said at the beginning, if you've got any other questions or you think about anything else after this session is finished, you can contact ILF Direct, or if you want to come through to me, I can certainly pass them on to Lee or put the two of you in touch. He will do one-to-one chats with you about something. If you've got ideas about things that you might like to explore, that's the way to do it, definitely. So keep in touch and we'll be able to organise that for you. Next week, we're looking at employment and employability, and we've got Jamie Rutherford from Enable Scotland who's going to come along and talk about that. And I think that's such an important one because I know when I'm talking to parent groups across the country and their young people are sort of 15, 16, 17, they're going, work is just off the radar. It's absolutely not a possibility. I just can't picture that. But we've got so many options with things like apprenticeships, supported employment that specialises in work placements for young people with disabilities, self-employment opportunities. There's a whole host of things. And like everything else around transitions, the more information you have earlier in the process, then the easier it is to be able to get something that's actually suitable for you. And there may well be more options for your young person than you think there are. So, you know, really, I would encourage you to, if you haven't already, to sign up for that session and come along next week and just hear what Jamie has to say, because I think that's something that it's good to have on the radar, if not for now, then for 2 or 3 years further down the line. So it just remains to say a big thank you to Lee. As I say, the thanks have been coming in on the message chat here, so I know that you found this really helpful.
Oh, it's been brilliant. I've loved it.
Good, that's great. Well, maybe we'll try and organise another one, perhaps maybe next year, something like that. We'll try and organise another one because I think there certainly would be the interest in it. So thank you to everybody for coming and enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good week and see you again next week if you can join us. Okay, thanks very much. Bye.
Bye.